putting up these lovely tutorials you guys have been watching. Okay, I've been away for some months and some of you have been calling me, not seen any updates, no new video. It's been 3 months, guys, and the good news is that I just got married, guys, and that is the reason why I've not been updating you guys. I was really busy trying to put up things together, but I'm fully back. Another good news is that you guys are going to be learning how I make these beautiful outfits. It's very beautiful, guys, and you can see I'm already rocking it to church. I'm rocking it to church right away. So all you have to do is to be patient and watch carefully. Watch the process. You will achieve the same thing.
So these are the items that we'll be needing for this tutorial: the pencil, eraser, tape rule, gum, long ruler, pattern master, curve ruler, the paper scissors and the fabric scissors. Of course, our fabric is a Dutchess material, and the paper that we are going to use to draft it. And these are the measurements that we'll be needing. So you should write your own measurements out as follows. The first thing I'm going to do is to mark 1 inch from the edge of my paper, and that will serve as my shoulder line. So you can see that I've used my gum to join my paper so that it can contain the length of the gown I'm making. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the length of my dress, and the length I'm marking is 50 inches. So I'm marking it all the way, and I'm going to use my long ruler to connect an horizontal line. So that would be the hem of my dress. So I'm going to map out 1 inch zipper allowance as shown. This is because I'm drafting the back of my gown first. So I'm mapping out 1 inch zipper allowance. The fabric I'm using is not that stretchy, that is why I want to put a zipper at the back. But if it's a stretchy material, there won't be need for adding zipper. So the next thing I'm doing is to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5, and I'm marking my sleeve extension. That is where I want my sleeve to stop, okay? So sleeve extension is how long I want my sleeve to be. So after that, I'm marking my sleeve opening. So this is a kimono outfit, so it has a cut together sleeve. So after that, I'm marking my waistline. So I'm using 14 inches for the waistline. So I'm going to mark my hip line. So I'm marking 24 inches for the hip line. So I'm marking my waist circumference divided by 4. I'm marking it on the waistline, and on the hip line I'm marking my hip circumference divided by 4. On the waistline, I'm coming up by 3 inches so I can connect. I came up by 3 inches so that I can connect it to the sleeve extension. Okay, so the 3 inches is just like a guide for me to connect to my sleeve extension. So So I'm placing my cover like so and I'm connecting it. So I'm going to connect the waistline to the waist to the hip as seen. So whatever I have at the hip line, I'm going to bring it down to the hem line. Okay. So I'm going to reduce 1.5 inch from that and I'm connecting it like so. So sorry guys, I should have come down by at least 2 inches for the shoulder slant before connecting to the sleeve extension. Okay, so I made a mistake there. So after marking the sleeve extension, I should come down by 2 inches for shoulder slant. Okay, so I'm correcting the mistake. So I'm marking the neckline 3 inches width and 1 inch depth. So I'm just coming out by 0.75 so that I can just connect the neck line of the back. Okay, so from that point of the neck, from the neck point, I'm connecting to the shoulder slant. Okay, I'm connecting to the shoulder slant. I should have done it before marking the sleeve opening. But all the same, we've corrected the mistake. So from that point of the shoulder slant, I am marking my sleeve opening. So I marked 5 inches for my sleeve opening. So for you to mark your own, you have to measure the circumference of where your sleeve is going to stop and you divide it by 2. That is what you are going to mark for your sleeve opening. So after that, I can now connect it to the waistline. Okay, after that, I can now connect it to the waistline as shown. So I'm trying to connect the sleeve as much as possible. So after that, we are done drafting the back. I'm going to proceed to add seam allowance all around. Okay, so I added 1/2 inch seam allowance at the shoulder. Then at the side seam, I added 0.5 inches seam allowance. Okay, and this is the back. This is how the back looks like after drafting it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to draft the front, but there is no need drafting it. I'm going to use the back, okay, to trace out the front. So I joined a new paper as long as possible, and you can see this line. I mapped out 5 inches, okay, and I draw a vertical line. So on that vertical line, I'm going to place the back there. Okay, so I'm going to place the back there, removing the 1 inch zipper allowance. So I'm going to make sure that the exact line is on that line that I drew. Okay, so that is what I did. So after that, I'm tracing out the back. Okay, so instead of drafting another one, it's better to just place it that way and trace it out so that we can have the same thing, the same sleeve and the same, shape. So I'm just tracing out the exact thing I have on the back pattern on the front. Okay, so just join your new paper, you map out 5 inches from the edge of the paper and you draw a vertical line and you place your back pattern on this vertical line, then you trace it out. Okay, it's as simple as that. Hey guys, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please kindly do so. That will really mean a lot to me. And if you don't understand anything we are doing here, you can equally drop your questions on the comment section. I will attend to that. So after tracing the back, I'm removing it. Okay, I'm removing the pattern. It's fancy, but I'm going to use my pencil to make it visible. So I'm making sure that every line is correct. Okay, so I'm trying to mark out the waistline and the hip line. So I'm going to use my pattern master to make those lines as evident as possible. Evident, not evidence. Sorry guys. So I'm retracing those lines so that they can be visible enough. So what I'm going to do is, from the waist line, I'm going to drop the waistline by 2 inches, and that will serve as our new waistline at the front. Okay, so I'm dropping the waistline by 2 inches, and from that point I'm coming out by 4 inches. Okay, I'm extending that line by 4 inches. So after extending it by 4 inches, I'm going to connect it to the neck point as shown. Okay, so I'm going to grab my long ruler and I'm connecting it to the neck point. Okay, so I'm just making the neckline I traced visible so you can see what I did. Okay, so from that point I'm just going to connect it downward. Okay, from that extension I made at the dropped waist, I'm going to connect my ruler down to the hemline. Okay, and I will connect it as shown. So you can see what we have here. So what I'm going to do is to add 0.5 inches seam allowance. Okay, but before that I'm going to map out from that dropped waistline. I'm going to mark 1 inch and I'm connecting at the center of the hemline. Okay, this is where we are going to slash and spread. Okay, so I'm going to come out by 1 inch again on the dropped waistline, and I'm going to connect this at the side of the skirt, just like you are seeing. So these lines are where we are going to spread, okay? That's where we are going to slash and spread. So I'm going to mark another 1 inch on the dropped waistline, and I'm going to connect it somewhere below the hip line. Okay, so after that, I'm going to move down my paper so that you can see how I connect the other one at the upper part. So before that, I'm going to cut out the excess paper so that I can be able to move down my paper. Yeah, I hope you guys can see it clearly right now. So what I'm going to do is to connect that line to the shoulder, okay? I'm going to make sure that the lines are in proportion, okay? So you can just connect your own as seen down to the shoulder. So you also connect the line down to the shoulder. And that is it. As simple as that. So after connecting these lines, okay, you can see these lines, that is the line we are going to slash and spread, okay? So you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, you should do your own that way. So I've cut it out and I just added 0.5 inches seam allowance at the center front side because I've already added 1 inch 0.75 seam allowance at the side, okay, when we traced. So what I'm going to do right away is to cut those lines open. You can see I started at the dropped waistline and I'm slashing through these lines I drew, okay? So you are not going to slash it through, okay? You are not going to slash up to the end. You are going to stop at least 0.125, okay, before the end of the line. So while slashing, you should be very careful so that you don't cut it through. So I'm also slashing the line that went up to the shoulder. So the table couldn't show us everything. That is why we are doing it at the floor, so you guys can see everything, how I'm slashing and spreading it. Yeah. So you can see that this is how I'm going to open it up on my paper. So I'm going to get a fresh paper and I placed my pattern on the fresh paper so that I can be able to spread it, okay? So I'm going to tape down the center front, okay? So the center front should be as straight as possible, okay? And holding it down with my gum so that I can carefully spread the rest of the pattern. So once I'm done holding the center front down, I'm going to spread each of the line by 3 inches, okay? And I'm going to make sure that both the up and the down are proportion to each other, okay? So they should be equal. I'm spreading each line by 3 inches, okay? You can spread by 2 inch, you can spread by 1 inch, according to the how full you want it to be and according to your material, okay? So I'm just using 3 inches because I just want some fullness around the waist. So I'm just going to make sure that the spreading rhymes with each lines, okay? So I'm also spreading by 3 inches. I'm cutting it a little bit so that it can get relaxed, okay? So I'm making sure that each line are proportionate to each other. Okay, so you can see that point. I'm just connecting it like so, and after connecting it, I'm going to add 0.5 inch seam allowance just there, okay? So you can see I'm adding 0.5 inch seam allowance there because we are going to join that part back. So you can do the same thing. So once I'm done, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut this out. So after cutting this out, you can see that we have our front pattern. So we have the front and the back pattern. I'm going to use this pattern to cut out the material. So after cutting it out, this is it. So you cut 2 pieces for the back, and you also cut 2 pieces for the front. Okay. So you can see that. So what I'm going to do, you can see that I've weaved it round, okay? You should do the same thing for your own. I'm going to join the center back, and I'm stopping where I'm going to fix the zip, okay? So this is the front, and this is how it looks like. So what I'm going to do is to fold the center front, okay, just to finish it up. I've weaved it, so I'm just going to fold it to give it a neat look. So I've done all that. I've fixed the zipper, and I've also finished up the center front, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is to join them at the shoulder line, okay? So I'm going to place it carefully, and I'm joining them at the shoulder line, okay? So I'll go ahead and do that, and I will be back to show you guys what's next. So after joining it at the shoulder line, this is how beautiful it's looking already. So we are going to do the twist effect, okay? So you should arrange your material properly, okay? Just arrange it properly. So this is how we are going to twist. We are going to twist the first, okay? Twist it, and you are going to twist it again. So once you twist it and twist it again, we are going to arrange the waistline. Can you see that? So that place we added 0.5 inch seam allowance after when we draft our pattern. So you can see the essence of the 0.5 inch seam allowance is to join it back at that waist, okay? So I'm going to pin it carefully, just like you are saying, okay? Yeah. So I'm going to pin it carefully, and that is it. So I'll pin it carefully, and I'll sew it, okay? I'll also pin the other side carefully so as to sew it. So you are going to sew it up to the point that you can't be able to sew it again, okay? So you are sewing it up to the point that you can't be able to move again, so as the twist, so that the twist can be, sit properly. So after pinning it, can you see how it looks at the front? So guys, I've sewn it, and this is how it looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go and sew it at the side, okay? By the seam allowance that I added, okay?
After sewing it at the side seam by the seam allowance I added, this is how beautiful it looks. So you can see I stitch here up so that I can be able to use it to go to church. So if you prefer your own open, you can forget stitching up here, and you can see at the neckline I also stitched it up so that there won't be any form of exposure, as I want to rock this to church. Alright guys, if you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly do so. This will really mean a lot to me, and if you find any part confusing, kindly drop your questions on the comment section. I will attend to that. Alright guys, bye. I will see you in the next one.